and we are just one small part of this whole picture that's going on, and we have to wake up, period.
Now, one of your contacts is a 4-foot, 11-inch light blue skinned being called Theseus.
That's correct.
Please describe his or her personality in detail.
Theseus, well, he's very serious. He's very benevolent. He's considered a sage in his world. He's an incredible healer. He has perspectives on things that are just far beyond anyone that I know. He's very direct. He's very humble. He's very soft. He's very direct. And when he moves into a room, like when I've walked with him or walked with the others, when we walk into rooms or different areas of motherships and the ships, energy changes. People, of course, they're very in touch with energy themselves. They instantly turn and they acknowledge him and they bow. I guess he would be considered an Ishwish or a Yahweh, an Abral, or I don't want to use the word God. An elder, of tremendous of wisdom and insight. And they take very seriously what is going on here. And the manipulations, the things that the Greys, the Orions, and the Reptilians are doing here. They're appalled with what's going on here. The other one is Morane.
Oh, let me get to Morane in a second here. You mentioned directness twice. With that in mind, what was the most memorable interaction you have shared with Theseus?
They're all memorable. But I guess the single most, well, there's been two, one that just occurred. But prior to that, the single most important one was I had just had a contact, and we had spent about an hour or so together, and I was very depressed, very sad. And as I'm leaving the ship, I was crying, and I turned around and I looked at him. And he looked at me and he smiled, and his words were, "The love that you withhold is the pain that you carry." That's been the most memorable one, only because of what that particular statement entails. When we leave our physical form, and what many of the Catholicisms teach, you're judged by God. It just simply isn't true. We judge ourselves. And what I read in that statement is that when we cross over, we look at the places in our life where we withheld love, that we maybe didn't give enough. And we judge ourselves on that. So that's been the most profound one for me.
And Morane, he's a 7.5 snow white skinned hairless being. Also,
he's light blue as well.
Oh, light blue. I'm sorry.
He's light blue.
Can you describe his or her? Can you describe his personality then in detail?
He's serious, but he also has a really good sense of humor. He can snap me out of my depressions very quickly, and he has just a different perspective of looking at things. He also tends to be part of their exploratory team. In other words, when there are times when they need to defend themselves or they're confronted with something, he takes on a military type of role. He's very, very fatherly, big brother. He's also one that he shows more emotion. He'll give you a hug or put his arm around you, he's just really, really wonderful in that sense. He's more human in that sense. He's not as sterile sometimes as Theseus would appear to be. It's not that they're not loving, but sometimes Morane is a lot more animated. And I can relate more to him, and I think he can relate more to the emotions that we experience here, the tremendous extremes that we experience. I think he's a little bit more in touch with that, than maybe sometimes Theseus appears to be.
Now let me ask you, what was the most memorable experience you've had with Morane?
I can't talk about that. I won't talk about that.
Okay. Now, please describe where and when you were born and your youth.
That's not something I want to talk about either.
Okay. In detail...
Because it's not about me, it's about the information.
Okay, that's fine. In detail, please describe your first contact at 8 years of age in 1964.
I didn't really know anything about it. I just knew that I supposedly had fallen asleep, and when I woke up it was evening. Everybody had been looking for me, and I wasn't where I was. And when I took them back to show them where the imprint was, we were playing hide and go seek, and this was in the peninsula of Michigan, near Woodstock, Michigan. And people had been looking for me, and I wasn't there, and I got a spanking, because I wasn't where I was supposed to be, and I'd been missing for hours. I didn't really know what had occurred until the second contact, which was at age 14, where I was told what had happened, that they had given me a physical, they had given me a suggestion to forget because of my family members just simply wouldn't understand. And they were right. They were very right about that.
Why was the physical necessary?
Well, they do that all the time. They do that to everybody, to make sure that you're physically fit, because they genuinely care about your physical health. And if there are problems, they want to make us aware of it and maybe offer a suggestion, like maybe you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Some people are even experiencing healings. And it's just a genuine caring for, of acknowledging who you are, not only on a physical level, but on a spiritual level.
Now, at age 14, what was the nature of that contact?
I was taken out of bed, and I woke up and I was on a table in a room, and this was my first introduction to Visayas and Morale, at least conscious introduction. And they were looking down, and I did, on a soul level, experience a recognition. There was no fear whatsoever. And we talked, and they showed me some things about my physical self. They also gave me a ball which recorded my entire energy field, who I was, who I'd been in past lives. And as it was recording this, I could see all these different images of who I'd been going across the screen. And they saved this, and this was put into the computer so that they would contact me and could contact me no matter where they were at any particular time that they need to. I was asked if I wanted to help them. I agreed to do this, although at the time I didn't know exactly what it would entail. I had, at any time, the choice to say no more, but it's been an incredible experience for me.
Alex, I presume you had soul recognition of them, that you had had previous incarnations with them.
This is true.
Do you want to talk at all about any of that?
No.
Okay.
No. Everybody on the earth is from someplace else. None of us were born and hatched here. None of us as souls were created here. We all come from another time and place. My understanding is that all of the conscious spirit that's in this universe came through different black holes from other universes in time and space, which we simply aren't privy to. So we're ancient. There's no age to us. We weren't created with the universe. We came through another universe, through the black holes, to this place that we now call our universe, to continue to evolve. That's everyone. Virtually everyone.
That contact at age 14, was that contact time travel in any way by the Andromedans to prepare you psychologically for your future contacts?
Yes, they were all the contacts was where they had to come back, because they came here in 1980.
Right.
So they had to go back in time. And that's what they've done with a lot of people. Even the Pleiadians, to some degree, I understand, have done that, where they go back and they start preparing people early for responsibilities they will have in the future, as opposed to hitting them all at once and saying, here you go, just dumping it on your lap, and you're saying, oh my God, what is this? My whole reality. So there are increments of preparation that have occurred and continue to occur. And this is occurring with humanity on a whole, in similar fashion, where information is being disseminated in little bits and pieces of ground roots. People are starting to come together and really sensing change, and they're slowly but surely being brought to a level that when the real truth hits them, they'll be able to experience it, handle it, and assimilate it for our good, you know.
Now, in 1985, your contacts with Visayas and Mornay began to become more frequent. Please describe the nature of your contacts and the content of your discussions and the ways in which you communicate with them.
We don't have enough time for that.
Okay.
But, you know, we have put together a series, Series 1 and Series 2, of this information. In 1985, it really started to, the information, they were physical. It evolved around the Greys, the Earth agenda, our spirituality, religions, Earth governments, Earth history, our genetic creations, the 22 different races that have actually colonized the Earth at one time or another, and who we have within us genetic racial memories of, within our DNA. And present time, things that are occurring now, and probable, I stress, probable future events, because the future is being created every day, and it's being changed every day, based on our thoughts. So, I mean, just to sum up it is, I would need 10 hours.
Okay.
You know, that's not something I could very simply go into.
Okay.
But the series of 8 and so on and so forth does in fact cover that.
Okay.
All that information.
All right. Now, how does the symbol they gave you play a role in your contacts with them?
Symbol.
Apparently, they gave you a symbol that you use when you
want to talk to them.
Want to talk to them.
The symbol was something that I chose.
Oh, I see. Do they ever talk amongst themselves in a language you don't understand?
They do, and it's not really a language. They're telepathic, and yes, they'll stand in circles when they're talking, and when they do talk, flashes of light where their third eye is, right here, different flashes of colors that we don't even have on our third density spectrum, just appear, and they're just boom, 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 flashing all this color, and it's like instantaneous sentences are being just communicated, and sometimes there's nodding, sometimes there's nodding this way, or sometimes up and down, sometimes, you know, there's gestures, but all the time there's just flashes, and their flashes is their language. It's rare that I've been privy to what it is because they happen so fast. I couldn't assimilate it.
So there are some universal gestures then?
Yes. All human beings are very animated. Yes, they smile. They also frown, and they also look very sad when something is distressing them. So they do experience it. You know, they do experience emotions, but not to the degree that we do. After they've had their discussions, one will turn to me. Usually, most of the time it's Mornay, and he'll talk to me like I'm talking to you. He'll actually go to the great lengths to speak to me. Or sometimes it's just telepathic. You know, he'll just look at me, and for a while there I wasn't always getting the message because I was so focused on the color that was flashing in front. I was watching it, and I was like, wow, this is really amazing. You know, but sometimes I'd have to repeat it. So, but now that novelty has worn off, so now I listen to the message. And Visayas is almost always telepathic. So that's what they do.
What have they asked you to do in order to help them?
Just to disseminate information. I'm currently in the process of trying to investigate all of the current UFO information that's out there, and what I've had the ability to do is to sometimes check it with them. Well, is this true? Is that true? And they've said yes, or they've said no. There is a lot of disinformation out there. So what I've been trying to do is just to assimilate what is real and give it from their perspective of how it affects us. We have a real mess on our hands.
Okay, let's talk about some of that. According to your Andromedan sources, there are 3 groups of extraterrestrials who are involved in very distressing agendas here on Earth. One is the renegade gray-skinned Zeta Reticulants. Another is the Giza intelligence, formerly of the Pleiades. And a third is the reptilians from Alpha Draconis. Is there another?
Yes.
Okay.
There's the Orion group as well, and there's 141 of them here. And they're from Ursa Minor, Ursa Major, Rigel, and Betelgeuse, from that particular group, that particular area of the star system. There are a lot of agendas here, hidden agendas. And you have to understand that some of the races, for example, the Draconians themselves did not evolve as a life form in our universe. They were dumped here. They were brought here because they're just a pain. They're incredibly smart, they're incredibly psychic, they're incredible builders, but they're bullies. Their whole thing is control, domination. And because there's no race in our universe that can really beat them up and wipe them out, they don't have to choose light or dark. They're just where they are. And they've chosen the opposite polarity. They're a tough bunch. They've manipulated a lot of civilizations throughout our galaxy. They're also responsible for the 600,000-year war, which almost annihilated the human species in our galaxy. And they show very little remorse about it. Hopefully they'll be leaving soon. But the others are life forms that have evolved, like the Orions. The Orion group has been genetically manipulated and have been deeply entrenched in Draconian belief systems. So they're carrying that energy or that torch for whatever their agendas are, as well as their own agendas. Okay? The Reticulant, the Greys have been controlled and manipulated by the Orion group. So there is a system, a class system here that's been established. And this is very common in the non-benevolent or regressive extraterrestrial structures, where there's a class system of workers, warriors, administrative or priests, and then the hierarchy, the royalty. And the lower you are, the worse you're treated. We have a history of that here on our planet as well. You know, and we've been taught this by the aliens themselves.
Right.
And the Pleiadians very much were part of that as well. For a time, they were very much in that belief system.
Well, let's focus for a while on the renegade Zeta Reticulants, the agenda of the gray-skinned Zeta Reticulants.
Okay. Number one, I would like to say that, you know, there's a lot of confusion that not all Reticulans are evil. There are some Reticulans that are incredible healers, that are incredibly benevolent. Unfortunately, most of them are getting a bad rap right now because of what the Greys are doing. And you know, there are 5 different subspecies of Greys.
May I interject here for a moment? I've heard the phrase long-nosed Grey describing their physical characteristics.
Those are not the benevolent Reticulants.
Okay.
The benevolent Reticulants look like children.
So the non-benevolent ones are the long-nosed Greys?
That's correct.
That's what I thought.
That's correct.
Okay.
And you know, there's a lot of information some people are experiencing real benevolent experiences with them, or they're told that they're experiencing benevolent, when in fact they really haven't. They just maybe haven't been regressed or taken deeply into their subconscious to know what is happening. They're incredible masters of mind manipulation. But anyway, their race is dying. They have been so genetically altered by the Orion group that they cannot reproduce. So they were told by the Orion group to come in here, this is how it's been related to me, to come in here and set the stage to break down the social structures so that when the Orion group and the Draconians come back, there are 2 classes, royalty and workers, which is exactly what they're doing.
You can see that agenda happening right in the United States since the beginning of the Reagan administration.
This is where the focus has been. It's been on the United States, singly. And there's been a reason for that, which we'll cover in just a little bit, but let me get my thoughts out here. Which is exactly what the Greys have been told to do. And they're doing it. In the meantime, they themselves have their own agenda. They see us, because of our genetic stock, of having the DNA of 22 different races and the racial memories, of trying to breed, to cross the genetic bridge so that they as a race can have enough genetic stock to continue to propagate their race, which according to the Andromedans, they're destined for extinction. What they're doing is not going to have any long-term effects to propagate their race. So they're desperately trying to do what it is that they're trying to do before all the other two groups get here. The Greys also themselves want to be free from the manipulation of the Orion group, just like we as a race want to be free of their manipulation. So there's this incredible triangle of crap that's hanging all over us, and all these hidden agendas and just brainwashing and bizarre belief systems that are being thrown at us, when they should all leave. Not only the good ones and the bad ones, they should all just leave and leave us alone, which is ultimately what the Andromedans want. But unfortunately, that isn't going to happen right now, not until some changes occur.
We have to begin to raise our consciousness.
Right, we need to.
Right.
And the first thing we need to do is we need to stop warring with each other. We need to come together as a race, and no matter what happens, we need to stop all of the political garbage and say, look, when it comes down to the bottom line, all we have is each other as a race. Period. And this is our planet, this is our home, and there's enough of us that are polluting the planet that we need to stop. Because if we don't stop polluting the planet, Rick, we're not going to have a place to live. Period.
Is there an Earth quarantine that the renegade Zeta Reticulants violated?
Yes.
And what was that quarantine?
The quarantine was they were supposed to, well, it's the same quarantine that evolves, that any other evolving planet has. No intervention with an evolving race. But because of our genetic stock, the Greys did it. Now, but they did it in such a way that they didn't totally violate our free will. They dangled a technological carrot to the government, and the government took the bait. They said, sure, for their own reasons, they took the bait, and there was an exchange of technology, and there was a treaty that was signed, and this is a dilemma that the Andromedan Council has. If the United States military had said, go away, the Greys would have had to have left.
So was this the Air Force Base situation or the Eisenhower situation where he had representatives? Is this the one that took place in the 50s?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. And this was with the Long-Nosed Greys?
That's true. And there were two groups there as well. The 7 from Sirius B, who are still here, were also witnesses to this, to add credence to it.
Okay.
So,
now,
and there are also, now just to add to this, the Andromedans have also said that in 1933, when the Greys really first got here, that they had actually approached the Germans, and the Germans said, no, you're out of here. We already have an agreement, and apparently the Germans were in touch with Giza intelligence. So the Greys left. They didn't pursue it at all, and they found their next opening here in the United States.
Let's go digress just a moment. You mentioned Sirius B. They have a relationship with the Dogon tribes in Africa, correct? Is that correct?
Yes, I understand that there is some ancestral genetic connection there.
Okay. Does that play a part in what's going on here on a global level, or is that just a kind of a minor sidelight?
I don't think at this point they give a damn about the Dogons or the humans at all. They all have their own agendas. And the fact that the way we're being treated, and the fact that there's like no supportal information coming out of our government, or any truth that they even want to discuss, like just coming to the people and saying, look folks, we screwed up. We need your help. We need to raise a consciousness and start implementing. The fact that they don't even want to do that, tells you really, where they're at. What I do know about the Syrians is that between Sirius A and Sirius B, there is a civil war going on there. And a lot of that, and there are also 21 other systems. There's war going on in Perseus as we speak. And 21 other star systems are also looking at the potential. And it has to do with the fact that there is now an uplifting of energy in our universe that's occurring, and the two positives, fear and love, are just banging themselves at each other. And the intensity is growing every single moment.
So
and we're just a microcosm of that.
Now, as you're disseminating all this information to us, we should look at all this information in the spirit of love, so we don't feed any energy into the spirit of fear.
Love is the answer. That's the bottom line. Love is the answer. Love does conquer all. Love does move mountains. It can make the shifts in consciousness, but it starts, number one, with ourselves. You know,
so
that's
even
where
all this is going on around us, we just need to remember to focus on love. And
love of self and love of earth, love of race. That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
Now, when did the Zeta Reticulants begin to create their genetic atrocities? Where did this take place on Earth, and what have the results been?
Well, it's occurring everywhere. Much of it is occurring underground. Some of it's occurring in the oceans. Some of it's occurring on the moon. Some of it's occurring on Phobos, the moon of Mars. It's happening in a lot of different places.
Is that an artificial moon?
Yes, it's absolutely. So's our moon. Our moon's artificial, completely artificial. It was brought here from Ursa Minor, apparently between 11 and 12,000 years ago.
For the purpose of?
Of being a satellite and a base, which they evacuated some time ago, but it's now being operational again. And I covered this in the series of 8. It came from a star system called Chata. That's for a word. That's the word they use, Chata. And it was the 17th planet out of a solar system that had 21 planets, and it was one of 4 moons. And it was brought here. It is older than the Earth. There are ruins all over it. There are bases underneath it. It's everything that we're told it isn't. So that's a whole unique story unto itself.
Okay, now, what are the results of these atrocities, these genetic atrocities, been, and are we going to begin to see more of them appearing?
Well, the Greys are trying to create a sub-race that is a blend between human culture, the human race, and their race.
A kind of a hybrid set.
Exactly. They're not being very, very successful. And one of the things that they're trying to do is they're really looking for the soul. They don't understand the soul. They don't understand our extremes of emotions as well, because they're very, very different from us. Their experiments haven't been all that successful. There are a lot of emotional problems with that, because what really makes a human being is our essence, is the spirit that animates the physical form. Well, there's also another factor, and that is that they actually feed off the energy. They're vampires.
The Zeta Reticulant Greys.
The Greys, right. They're vampires.
Is this where we get our vampire legends? A lot of our vampire legends?
I don't know about that. I don't know if that has to do with it. I don't really know. I wouldn't be surprised, to be perfectly honest with you. But they feed off the energy. They can even bottle the energy and use it for later times. They're also stealing the vital bodies of human beings and storing it. So, I mean, they're just doing some really horrific things here that other races just simply wouldn't conceive of doing.
Now, are you familiar with Salvador Freixedo?
No, never heard of him.
Okay, he's a gentleman who proposes, he's a former Jesuit priest who proposes the idea that Colosseum-type sporting events are used to vampire energy off the crowds.
I wouldn't at all be surprised. It wouldn't surprise me in the least.
He said, like, the sacrifice of human beings in some ancient civilizations here on Earth was a form of belief system that was set up for these beings to vampire energy off of.
I wouldn't be surprised at that either.
Okay.
War. Our wars here. It's the exact same thing. And to all of your viewers, I'm going to give you some homework. It is an absolute must that you go out and get the book, The Gods of Eden by William Bramley. It is an excellent introductory book that will bring you right up to speed with what's going on. It is over 80% accurate with the information in there, and I strongly suggest that people read it. It's excellent.
And the 20% that isn't accurate revolves around what type of ideas?
Around the soul and the being that we know as Jesus, which I'm not going to go into.
Okay. Now, how are we doing on time here? Do you still have some more time?
Well, we've come here an hour so far. Well, we'll continue.
Okay, you let me know when you
Okay.
need to break. How are the renegade Zeta Reticulants able to manipulate Earth's most powerful governments into a position of checkmate?
Oh, it's easy. That part was really easy. Number one, their technology is 2,500 years more ahead of us. Number two, because of our greed factor, certain groups of power elite are in touch with them on a physical level. Well, many of them are implanted. Many of them are so implanted that they have now become part of the gray group mind. And the Andromedans no longer consider some of these human beings, Terrans as they call us, human at all anymore. They're nothing but clones for what the Greys want. And they pass down orders, they tell others what to do, and of course the chain of command that we've established on our planet is exactly what's happening. Also, playing on the greed factor, those who are still human, they look at the fact that, well, they're here, they're the rulers, you know, we can still maintain our place of privilege in the world, so we'll form the new priesthood. We'll be the go-between, between the workers and the gods, just like we saw in Babylon, in Assyria, Egypt. It's all over again. It's history repeating itself all over again.
Because it's the control factor, the hierarchy is the established mode for these negative civilizations to keep their power structure intact.
That's right.